Today, we started a mobile signature campaign uh, called Kankesan to Hambanto to express their opposition to the Prevention of Terrorism Act. Eventually, uh, refer Sri Lanka to the International Criminal Court. As president and as the Minister of Defense, signing 3 detention orders under the PTA. So this is a very, very serious issue.
After Ranil Wickremesinghe became the president, he took a tough stance against the Aragalaya protesters. On a daily basis, arrests happen. And while the Rajapaksa supporters are being reinstated back to power, how do you see this development? Where are we heading right now?
We are down a slippery slope. The president could easily have withstood the pressure from SLPP and refused to appoint the ministers. If he had only done that, the whole country would have been behind him. The upcoming Geneva session is a very important one because the
Honorable Sumanthiran, what is TNA stance with regarding the upcoming Geneva session?
the upcoming Geneva session is a very important one because the last resolution on Sri Lanka, which is UNHRC 46-1, expires in September. And with the commencement of this session, there will be a report of the High Commissioner that is tabled on the 12th. That report is already out. It's a very strong report that finds many faults with Sri Lanka. In fact, it also suggests that the current economic crisis is as a result of Sri Lanka not pursuing accountability, or one of the reasons is that. And so, when that report is placed, for UN Human Rights Council to continue to have this matter on their agenda, new resolution has to be adopted at this session. Now, we have pushed for a new resolution to be adopted on the lines of the High Commissioner's report. And with regard to accountability for international crimes that were committed during the war, we have asked very specifically that the matter be referred to International Criminal Court. Now, when I say that, I must also qualify it, saying that it's a very difficult path. It's not easy to make a reference to ICC. It has to go through the Security Council, where there are at least 2 countries with veto that will veto them. But now that there are 13 years have passed and no accountability mechanism has been established, our request has been to the international community, particularly to the core group and the member countries of UNHRC, for them to take at least the preliminary steps in order to eventually uh, refer Sri Lanka to the International Criminal Court.
Honorable Sumanthiran, you are just coming back from Jaffna after launching a signature campaign against the PTA. So, could you tell about it?
PTA is a draconian piece of legislation which we have opposed for several decades. We have called for its repeal. In the last government, when Ranil Wickremesinghe was Prime Minister, he traveled to Brussels, to the European Union, and there he gave an undertaking that PTA would be repealed. And it was on that promise that GSP plus concession was restored. It had been previously taken away from Sri Lanka, but upon this promise, it was restored. But 5 years hence, it has not been repealed. It still continues in our statute books. But worse, this law, uh, not only did the government say they'll repeal it, but there was a moratorium on it. They said we will not use it until it is repealed. But last month we saw the same Ranil Wickremesinghe, who was Prime Minister, who gave that promise to repeal it, as President and as the Minister of Defense, signing 3 detention orders under the PTA. So this is a very, very serious issue. We had started a campaign, a signature campaign in February this year, and we went from town to town collecting signatures. There was a good response from all communities, uh, political leaders, religious leaders, ordinary people. But we had to suspend it for a short time when there was a fuel crisis and when the vehicles were lined up on the streets. We couldn't do this on street corners. But now that the government has started using it again, contrary to the promise that they gave that it would be repealed and the moratorium they placed on it, we thought it is time that we relaunch this effort. So a couple of days ago, I made an announcement in Colombo that we were relaunching this effort. And today, we started a mobile signature campaign uh, called Kankesan Thurai to Hambantota. This mobile unit will travel through all 25 districts, at least one day in each district, and eventually get to Hambantota, thereby giving the citizens of this country from all districts to express their opposition to the Prevention of Terrorism Act.
Uh, Honorable Sumanthiran, after Ranil Wickremesinghe became the president, he took a tough stance against the Aragalaya protesters. On a daily basis, arrests happen. And while the Rajapaksa supporters are being reinstated back to power, how do you see this development? Where are we heading right now?
We are down a slippery slope. The president could easily have withstood the pressure from SLPP and refused to appoint the ministers. If he had only done that, the whole country would have been behind him. But in order to just have the SLPP behind him, he has now has the whole country against him by appointing 37 ministers of state, several of whom have serious criminal record. And not just that, but at a time when the country is undergoing a severe economic crisis, when many people have dropped their 3 meals to two, and those who were anyway having only 2 meals have dropped it to one. People are being told to tighten their belts. And then you have this massive splurge of 37 state ministers, although they say that they are not going to draw their salary or perquisites. That's a small thing. Each minister will have an office staff, vehicles, and this is a huge cost that the government has undertaken, and the president is solely responsible for this. As much as he is responsible for signing those PTA detention orders, here too, under the 20th Amendment, it is the sole discretion of the president to appoint the ministers. So he has come to that office by chance, by an accident, but he's using all that powers for the wrong things. When there must be austerity practiced by all, and the government, more than anybody else, should be leading by example. This massive splurge of taxpayers' money, public money, money that we don't have, to be used on all these Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna politicians mainly, is something that nobody can accept. And certainly the country will not tolerate it. And this is going to be the seed for the next protest movement.
Recently, members of TELO, one of the TNA's coalition partners, met with President Ranil Wickremesinghe. Uh, Is this a clear rift? Shows a clear rift within the TNA, or is there being an attempt being made to split the TNA? What is your position?
Well, both are true. There has been a rift within the coalition partners in the TNA that everybody can see, uh, and then that is being exploited by the government, particularly by the president, and that also we can see. In fact, when we met him together as TNA, at the end of the meeting, I told him, "We did not vote for you, but you are the president now." He immediately told me, "No, no, not all of you. Some of you voted for me." Then I told him, "No, it can't be, because as a party we took a decision and our MPs voted according to that decision." He said, "No, uh, some of you did not vote according to that decision. In the interest of the Tamil people, you voted for me." So here he was saying that he also knew that there was a splinter, there was a split in the TNA. Even if that be not true, he was showing his hand that he was quite happy to split the TNA. So Tello going and meeting him at this juncture without informing, without telling the other members of TNA, when we had all met together just less than a month ago, is an injudicious act that gives strength to Rani Vikramasinghe's scheming mind that he can split the TNA.
Thank you very much, Honorable Sumanthiran.